Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else, don't make me turn this website around.
We're going to talk to TJ first. Hi, TJ. Thank you for calling the line. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, but
Don't be nervous.
I wanted to talk about like QAnon in the future of cult. Like, to me, it's like it's changed a lot of things, especially since there's like, you know, the charge on Capitol Hill, and just like thinking like, what do you guys think like the future of cults would look like?
Well, I think that generally speaking, cults have looked the same for millennia. They have always been about controlling people and, you know, in four primary ways, trying to control the information that they consume, their behaviors and modifying their behaviors to create a personality that's distinct and unique and useful to the group, controlling them emotionally by isolating them from family members and things like that, and controlling their thoughts by giving them this black and white mentality and this, you know, their doctrine comes before all else. And it's always kind of fit that pattern since the dawn of time, practically. You know, ever since the very first cult existed, it's always kind of operated like that, fallen into that pattern. So I expect that we're going to see more of that. But as it gets more publicized, as cults get bigger, like QAnon, for example, as that expands, I think people are going to start seeing through the patterns, start recognizing the patterns, and start dropping away from the cult more and more, hopefully. That's what I hope for.
Do you think that, like, with the information age, with people having so much ability to join these sort of online cult-like circles, or in fact cults, that we would see it as more prevalent, kind of like QAnon is? Because QAnon seems to have sort of permeated society to a degree that's like unprecedented with regard to this cult mentality and like instantiating these sort of ideals and enacting them. And they don't seem to even realize that they're in a cult, and yet they're insulated in the group online instead of like it's like a whole new age of ability to create a cult-like system.
Definitely, and I don't think that this has been the case forever, but this next part here is my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. In my opinion, I believe that there is a new form of cult that's kind of coming into existence. Coming into existence. A new brand, if you will. It's almost like the old style cults that have existed since the dawn of time are very centralized and hierarchical, and there's like a top-down kind of order where there's a leader, and that leader has generals under him that tell the members what to do and what to believe and how to act and everything else. But in the new information age, with like the advent of the internet and everything, there's almost like this part's my opinion. There's a new type of cult forming that doesn't necessarily have a leadership. It's like it's a decentralized kind of thing where people are just kind of gathering together in these groups, like online social media spaces, you know, like, for example, anti-vax groups, or these like mom groups that believe in crystals and healing and stuff like that on Facebook. There is no real leader there necessarily, but they're all kind of forming out their own belief system and ideology exactly the same way a cult would. And in my opinion, this is a newer phenomenon that's really popping up as a result of the internet. And it's just an entirely new type of cult. I call it a decentralized, non-focused cult.
Does that help to kind of elucidate things for you, TJ, or did you have something specific that Owen's explanations didn't answer?
Well, I was like thinking like since like the internet age and stuff, like you guys were saying you might be able to more easily debunk this kind of thing, but like we've seen like information warfare to where like you can't exactly, the truth is a lot more obfuscated. And I was just like thinking, like, do you think there's going to be like a lot more of these cults popping up?
Something that I've noticed happening is like, all right, let me give you a for instance. I was talking to my daughter the other day, right? And she was telling me, I don't try to like push my political beliefs on her or anything, but she knows that I'm very liberal, and she's very liberal too. She is all about helping people and, giving them a helping hand if need be, and trying to make the world more equal and things like that. And so I don't really worry about her like turning into like a Trump supporter or something. But she told me she found herself on Trump TikTok the other day. And I was like asking her questions about it because I found it really fascinating that there's a complete like I don't know, just a break between, Trump information and everyone else's information. It's like Trump TikTok is completely separate from the rest of TikTok. Like they don't hear the same information that the rest of the world hears. And I think that above all else, exposing yourself to new ideas and viewpoints and information is really important, because that is one way in which cults control people. It's really concerning to me to know that there are like segments of the internet where no media reaches people there unless, the leaders put it there for them to see. That is a really concerning thing. And I think we can expect to see that change and morph over time.
Yeah, I think changes in education systems are probably necessary at this point too. So instead of teaching people more like rote memorization, teaching people source methodology and sound epistemology and like learning how to operate logically is something that's becoming so like clearly becoming so important to prevent these types of indoctrination from happening, especially when you become isolated in these small pockets of the internet where the information that you're presented with is very specific and it's curated in a way that makes any counter information, like they've got it built in so that any counter information you're exposed to is seen as, deviant or to be expected. Like it's built into the conspiracy so that you don't even enter it into consideration because you're anticipating that it's going to be there because they told you to expect that they were going to use that to try and trick you. And because you don't have a real sound epistemology and you don't know how to do good source methodology, you believe or buy into that. So I think education systems improving to incorporate how to think instead of just what to think is something that would be super key in preventing seeing continued prevalence of these types of things. I don't know. Do you agree with that, Owen?
Yeah, definitely. And also evangelicals, like the evangelical voting bloc in the US, has put a lot of time and money into lobbying efforts to push the curriculum that kids are taught in the school systems toward a more Jesus-based approach, basically. And that includes not teaching critical thinking skills. They want kids to be more like, just kind of accept what they're told and shut your mouth kind of thing. And, that's a huge problem in the U.S., although it's not just in the U.S. I know that critical thinking skills aren't really taught as much as they should be all over the world, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I agree. And look at the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
Not good.
Here we are. For the record, before we get off the line here, I just wanted to give some context because he mentioned QAnon. As far as I can tell, QAnon has between 18 million and 22 million members. That's, a rough number.
Yeah, I remember from your video, actually. I watched it.
Yeah. You probably saw the one where I went through the entire breakdown. So 18 to 22 million, give or take. And for context, Mormonism has about 14 million members worldwide. Jehovah's Witnesses have 8.5 million worldwide. only 1.3 million Jehovah's Witnesses in the U.S. alone, I believe. I think I'm quoting those numbers correctly. So QAnon is fucking huge, and it's kind of disturbing.
That is crazy. And it permeates Canada, really too. Disturbing. Like, there's people I know who ascribe to that beliefs. Like, when the siege on the Capitol happened, there was people on my personal Facebook page that were posting, like, the storm is coming, or today's the day, or whatever, like, the keywords were. And I know from knowing you, Owen, and from knowing Dan, I was like, oh my God.
Bizarre, right? Why in Canada? Like, why do they care about, like, Donald Trump? It's so strange. Not just Canada, but other countries.
Pedophilia too, and it appeals to, because the underlying notion of QAnon is that you're protecting children from pedophiles, which is like the base, like at its central core. That's like the primary tenet, is that there's a group of elites that are, literally blood-sucking pedophiles that are engaging in, like, this child trafficking ring.
Oh, and it gets stranger than that too. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And so they perceive it as them protecting children from this, like, elite globalist society that there's no real evidence for except conjecture.
Right.
So that's why it transcends, I think, U.S. politics, because they push it in QAnon as, like, these are globalists, like, this is all the way across the world. So other people believe it and believe that it permeates societies everywhere as a result, because that's the primary tenet, which is just utterly bonkers to me. Like, there's no proof of it. It's just conjecture.
Yeah, and it's not just like, it's not basic claims. They go into extreme detail. Like, they describe something that Hillary Clinton did in just vivid detail. And it's not just like there's no evidence for that. It's like, how the hell did you get from A to B? Like, somebody sat down and made this shit up, because there's literally zero evidence for any of this. Very strange. Right.
And the Q posts themselves are so ambiguous. I'm sure you've seen them. They're just, you have to do so much interpretation to get anything viable at all out of them. And then it's like, it's beyond conjecture at that point, because it's just like lists of words that are posted.
Yep. And I've been watching it too. I've been watching the Q posts. And that is, I just checked it a second ago too, actually. It looks like they haven't posted anything since December 8th. And before that, it was November 13th and November 12th. So I think the Q poster is just gone. Like, they're done with it, it seems to me. We'll see.
Oh my gosh, crazy. Anyway, TJ, hopefully that helped to kind of illuminate our position on it. Do you have any additional questions before we move on to the next caller?
No. I'm a big fan of both of you guys, so yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, not a problem. Thank you for calling, TJ. Bye. I think that might be the first time I've ever talked about QAnon, so I'm happy to do it.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, it's very strange, dude.
It is. It's bananas. Like, and the whole thing, the more you learn about it, the more you're like, why would anyone, how?
Yeah.
How? Like, the bakers, that was like a whole group of people they call the bakers, that are just, they're designated to interpret. It's crazy. It's bananas. Well, anyway, we're going to talk to Laura. Shift gears a little bit.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.